the Academy Award
on the 27th of February 2017, thanks to an ill-fated envelope mix-up
for Best Picture.
Academy Awards history was made.
La La Land.
Not only was the wrong winner for Best Picture announced live on television, but it was the culmination of one of the tightest competitions in Academy Awards history, with two very different films considered the frontrunners for the most coveted award of the night. In one corner, Damien Chazelle's musical ode to the magic of Hollywood, and white men who really like jazz.
Very, very exciting.
And in the other, Moonlight, the self-proclaimed story of a lifetime, directed by emerging filmmaker Barry Jenkins.
You're in the middle of the world.
La La Land offered voters a return to the past, to the heyday of classical Hollywood, where musicals, films about Hollywood, and most crucially, films about white people, dominated cinema. Whereas Moonlight offered a look towards the future, where a small, independent film, considered art house by Oscar standards, could win the biggest award of the year.
There's a mistake. Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture.
The film did just that. In a shocking twist, Moonlight went from film festival favourite to a household name overnight, surprising even the director.
Very clearly, even in my dreams, this could not be true.
But how did this man, director Barry Jenkins, go from making one feature film, the low-budget indie Medicine for Melancholy, to here?
Oh my goodness.
How did he go from being a voracious lover of film
Yes.
to a master chronicler of black love on screen? Even in his first film, the lo-fi student project My Josephine, Barry Jenkins' storytelling philosophy was evident. Filmed just 2 years after 9/11, the short follows Adid and Adela, who work together in a dry cleaners. Adid and Adela clean US flags for their customers, free of charge. Like all of his films, it's a character study. It's about love, and it's about people of colour and their place in the US.
Coffee?
Just like My Josephine, Jenkins' feature debut Medicine for Melancholy was made on a tiny budget. But once again, Jenkins' interests as a director continue to emerge and take shape in the film. Never given an official cinema release in the UK, Medicine for Melancholy follows Mika and Joe, two Bay Area residents, who, after a one-night stand, spend the following day tentatively getting to know each other. The film's cinematography makes a distinct impression. It's shot in muted colours that are almost faded to black and white, with the extreme close-ups that would soon become a trademark of Jenkins' films. This was the first feature collaboration between Jenkins and his cinematographer James Laxton, and Medicine for Melancholy showed the pair's unique visual style and the synergy that would continue into their later work. The film is highly influenced by the work of French director Claire Denis, who Jenkins cites as his biggest influence and favourite filmmaker. Medicine for Melancholy is a clear homage to her film Vendredi soir, which, as well as having those intimate extreme close-ups, also looks at a couple having a one-night stand. Jenkins even pays tribute to one of Claire Denis' longtime collaborators, the haunting chamber pop band Tindersticks, by using one of their songs on the Medicine for Melancholy soundtrack. Referencing a filmmaker like Denis feels like a statement of intent. Jenkins is positioning his work as part of a cosmopolitan cinematic tradition, with its roots in European cinema. But it wasn't until 8 years later that Jenkins made his second feature, the beautiful coming-of-age tale, Moonlight. Compared to Medicine for Melancholy, this was a story told on a much bigger canvas, with a high-profile cast of stars, including Mahershala Ali, Naomi Harris, and pop star Janelle Monáe, as well as promising newcomers Alex Hibbert, Ashton Sanders, and Trevante Rhodes, who all take on the lead role of Chiron, a man struggling with his identity across 3 key stages of his life. And even for those not swayed by star power, it was impossible not to be swept up in the beauty of Moonlight cinematography, the latest collaboration between Jenkins and Laxton. Moonlight also wears its cinematic influences on its sleeve. These include the films Jenkins fell in love with at college, such as the work of director Wong Kar-wai, who he specifically references throughout the film. Jenkins was also influenced by directors whose work he discovered as a film programmer, such as Khalil Joseph and his heightened, hyper-real depiction of black life in the music video Until the Quiet Comes. Music is a key part of Moonlight. With the film covering 3 specific periods of Chiron's life, so much is subtly suggested, rather than explicitly told, through the music Jenkins uses in the film. Chiron goes from an innocent dancing child to a man who has rebuilt himself as a drug dealer, with a tough demeanour, listening to chopped and screwed hip-hop. In contrast to this, his love interest Kevin fondly remembers their connection through a soulful love song.
Hello, stranger.
Moonlight also manages to be 2 things: specific and universal. Black audiences are starved for representation, both on and off screen. But here, Jenkins, a black filmmaker, makes a film for and about black people. In a world where coming-of-age films are so often told from the perspective of straight white teens, Jenkins instead tells a black, queer, working-class coming-of-age story.
You don't even know.
While the film does show Chiron's emotional journey to come to terms with his identity, Jenkins avoids the cinematic conventions other filmmakers often fall into, such as sensationalising and sentimentalising black pain, as in Lee Daniels' Precious.
Nobody loved me.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Or, as in Ang Lee's Brokeback Mountain, ending a queer relationship with compromise and tragedy. Instead, Moonlight is a film that's all about love. Chiron is taken in by nurturing surrogate parents Juan and Teresa when his mother is unable to care for him.
You don't talk much, but you damn sure can eat.
That's all right, baby. You ain't got to talk till you get good and ready.
And towards the end of the film, heartbreaking steps are made to heal the bond between parent and child.
So you ain't gotta love me. But you gonna know that I love you. You hear me, Chiron?
I hate you, Mama.
Like any good coming-of-age story, Moonlight captured its audience's hearts because it was universal. Even old white Academy voters were able to relate to this story.
There was a time when I thought this movie was impossible because I couldn't bring it to fruition. I couldn't bring myself to tell another story.
Which takes us back to that historic Oscar night. What do you do after your film wins Best Picture? In Jenkins' case, he turned away from film and directed an episode of the satirical comedy drama series Dear White People.
Are you a student here?
What?
Jenkins' episode of the show proved to be its most pivotal and provocative, tackling the hot-button topic of police prejudice.
I'm gonna need to see your ID.
Why you need to see my ID?
Son.
What begins for a group of black friends on a college campus as just another Saturday night at a party quickly turns into the stuff of nightmares.
I said show me some ID!
Yo, he's a student!
He's a student.
I'll be seeing you around.
His return to cinema with 2018's If Beale Street Could Talk would elaborate on these issues further. looking at the prison industrial complex through the words of pioneering African-American author James Baldwin.
It is not possible to run from Orchard to Bank Street, particularly not with the police behind you. Yet Officer Bell swears he saw Fonnie run from the scene of the crime. This is only possible if Officer Bell were off duty, for his beat is on the west side, not the east. And yet it is now up to the accused to prove and pay for proving the irregularity and improbability of this sequence of events.
If Beale Street Could Talk followed Raoul Peck's galvanising 2016 documentary, I Am Not Your Negro, which drew a direct line between Baldwin's eloquent statements and the modern-day struggles of black people in America.
If any white man in the world says, give me liberty or give me death, the entire white world applauds. When a black man says exactly the same thing, he is judged a criminal and treated like one.
You ready for this?
I've never been more ready for anything in my whole life.
But Beale Street was the first film adaptation of Baldwin's fiction, made with the full permission of Baldwin's estate. The film follows star-crossed young lovers Tish and Fonnie, who are cruelly separated after Fonnie is wrongfully imprisoned for a crime he did not commit.
Hey.
Hey,
And then, to make matters even more complicated,
we're gonna have a baby.
Tish finds out she's pregnant. Again, Jenkins takes heavy, thought-provoking subject matter, in this case racism, prejudice, and the prison system, but weaves it into a story all about love. In Moonlight, Chiron can't see the love that his biological and adopted family have for him. But in Beale Street, Tish and Fonnie are fueled, even in their dire circumstances, by the love they have for each other.
I love you.
I love you too.
And the love and support of their families. Well, mostly.
I always knew you'd be the destruction of my son.
Once again, Jenkins and Laxton collaborated on the cinematography for this film, taking it in a different direction to Medicine for Melancholy's washed-out San Francisco and Moonlight's piercing, blue-filtered Miami. In Beale Street, they use lush primary colours to capture New York. And the film is reminiscent, not just in colour palette, but also in plot, to Jacques Demy' The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, another primary coloured love story of young lovers tragically separated by a cruel twist of fate.
Love this movie. There's just too much good cinema here.
Even now, as an Academy Award-winning A-lister, Jenkins is still the eternal film student, always ready to rhapsodise about a film or filmmaker he loves.
Foundational.
Jenkins brings together all those international influences to tell uniquely American stories, Black American stories, and above all else, transcendent stories about Black love.